I remember one day sitting in my bedroom with all of these like tablets, trying to figure out which one I needed to take and thinking, how is this a solution? Like, there must be something else we can do. This can't be what I have to do for the rest of my life. And at the time, I didn't know that what I was thinking of and what I was talking about was nutritional therapy.
Hello and welcome to the podcast, Isabel. Thank you so much for taking the time out of the day to come and record this episode.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really looking forward to delving into our discussion. I think it will provide some value to our listeners. So let's just get started by you sharing a bit about yourself and your PCOS journey and your story.
Great. My PCOS journey makes it sound like it's really exciting. So I got diagnosed with PCOS when I was 19, which is quite an early age to get diagnosed with it, which had its kind of good points and bad points. It was good because obviously I then was able to understand things a bit better, and I knew what the kind of problem was, even though no one really understands PCOS, but I had an idea so I could work on it. But in terms of actually trying to digest it and understand it, was really difficult, because when you're 19, people who are a lot older than you are like, oh, but you don't want to have kids yet, so it doesn't matter. And then people who are the same age as you are like, oh, you're so lucky, like you don't have to worry about getting pregnant, or you don't have to worry about having periods. And I was like, yeah, I really feel lucky. But I was 19, but the year beforehand was probably one of the unhealthiest years of my life. So I was a chunky kid when I was little. I was chunky. So then throughout my whole teenage years, I was just plagued with like that diet mentality, which I think so many young girls are, and it's why I'm so vocal about kind of being realistic and having this balanced, enjoyable lifestyle, because I know how much it affected me when I was younger, and the thought of other people still having those thoughts, and even younger now, it's happening to people even younger ages. It's devastating. So yeah, I'm quite vocal about that. But I'd spent most of my teenage years just trying to be in this kind of like, I want to be skinny cycle. And then when I was 18, I got down to like the lowest weight I've been as an adult, you know. And I was by no means just skin and bones, but I was definitely the smallest I've been. And then I went travelling when I left sixth form. And in about 8 months, so not a very long time at all, I gained about 3 stone, which was down to a lot of eating and drinking and partying and whatever. But then when I came back, I was just like a completely different person. So I was a lot bigger, and I was just unhappy. I was just really like not in myself at all. And I came off the pill. So I've been on the pill since I was probably about 16, because they don't really tell you anything about it when you go on it, they just give it to you. And I decided to come off it because I thought, oh, the pill makes you fat, that's what everyone says, don't they? So I came off it, and things kind of just got worse from there. So my period didn't come back, and then I had like really bad acne, but from like my jawline down, and just like all across my chest, like down to my mid-chest. And there was a time in my life when I like just wore turtlenecks, which probably made it worse. And my hair was falling out, and the fatigue has always been the worst thing for me. Like, anyone who knows me knows I'm quite energetic, I'm quite full of life, and I was just like, I didn't even want to get up in the morning, I just wanted to stay in bed all the time. I was so tired. So I went to my GP. I didn't really realise all these things were connected. But I went to my GP, and they kind of just said, oh, you know, if things haven't improved in a few months, then come back. So I went back in a few months, because things hadn't improved, they just got worse. And then they did some tests, and I had like a scan, and that's when they confirmed that it was PCOS. And obviously I was given the advice everyone gets given. I was told to go on the pill, and I was told to lose weight. Those are the 2 things that they tell you. And I was kind of scared into going on the pill, because I didn't want to go back on it, and they said, well, if you don't go on the pill, then you're at really high risk of uterine cancer. And I was like, well, that sounds terrible. So I went back on it, and they had to try lots of different ones. I've always been really sensitive to hormones, which now makes a lot of sense. But none of them really suited me. I'd get all these other side effects, and then I'd end up being on other medications to counteract that, and other medications to counteract that, and I ended up I remember one day sitting in my bedroom with all of these like tablets, trying to figure out which one I needed to take, and thinking, how is this a solution? Like, there must be something else we can do. This can't be what I have to do for the rest of my life. And at the time, I didn't know that what I was thinking of and what I was talking about was nutritional therapy. I had no idea that that was even a thing that existed. And I said to myself, I'm going to give myself a year off all of this medication, where I'm going to really try and sort this out through my lifestyle. And if in a year I've seen absolutely no improvement, then I'll go back on all of this, conventional medication that I've been told to take. So just from that day forward, and I'm not advocating people here just throw their medication away, that's probably not the best way forwards, but that was what I did. And I just really threw myself into research and trying things out, trying to understand what it was and how to sort it out. And I essentially used nutritional therapy on myself. Still had no idea that that was what I was doing. And it was a year almost to the day that I had my first natural period since I was about 15 years old. And I remember phoning my mum crying, that happened. And then that just really showed me how powerful nutrition and lifestyle. It's not just PCOS that food and nutrition can be really powerful with. It's all types of female health, endometriosis, the menopause, infertility, all those kinds of things can all be so supported. And then that kind of led me into the career and the studying that I'm going into now, because I just wasn't really aware of this field before I ended up accidentally doing it to myself.
Exactly. And so I feel like from your story, your journey, everybody who's listening, I feel like everyone who's listening can relate. I can relate to your journey. There's a lot of points I was just like, like with the birth control pill, that doctors are just like, this is
like sweets, take that.
It's like if this hasn't shown to work, why are doctors still giving it out? It's it's
not a treatment, it's plaster.
Exactly. And I just feel like even it being a band-aid, a lot of the time doesn't even fix the problem it's being given for. With the period, it kind of regulates.
Yeah. It creates a cycle, but it's not a normal cycle.
Exactly. And I just feel like with me, I feel like one of the risks was thrombosis, swelling of, and my calf got swollen. I was just like, this is not a good thing. So I was just like, I actually came off the pill without even consulting either. I was just like, this is bad. This is toxic.
I always do this to myself.
But I feel like when you were talking about how when we're younger and everyone's like, oh, you don't have to have a period, you're lucky. And I feel like
I still get that now.
And it's just it's not even just the period that you lose when you've got PCOS, it's all these other risk factors. You've got an increased risk of depression, of heart disease, of endometrial cancer, just diabetes. It's not even just infertility, that's a huge thing as well. I feel like all these other things are serious too. And I just feel like when you do get your period, when the first time I got my period,
I was in floods.
You literally just oh my god, I'm so grateful.
I was so confused though, because I hadn't experienced the kind of pain for so long that I was up all night before, being like, what is this pain that I'm feeling? This is horrible. And then in the morning I was like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, literally when I get super emotional sometimes, and you should go to Twitter, that's why I was so emotional. That was what I did last year with my friends. I started crying one night. After a night, I was like, why am I crying? It's the next morning, I'm like, guys, I know why I was crying. I
can let you all know.
I'm not weird, I just starts crying for no reason. But it was just funny. I just feel very relatable, and I feel the fact that you're very vocal with living that balanced lifestyle and being a proponent of sustainable living, not being so super restrictive, and being realistic with your goals and not striving for that number on the scale all the time, being super skinny and not focusing on when you're trying to treat your pieces, you're not focusing on weight loss. That's just a symptom.
That for me was such a massive turning point that I didn't realise at the time. So when I decided to make all of these kind of nutrition and lifestyle changes, I obviously immediately went the complete other end of the scale, and I went super restrictive. I read all of the myths and all of the stuff, and I went like dairy free, gluten free, alcohol free, everything free, and it was the most miserable 3 months of my life. And I just cut out everything, and I was trying to exercise all the time, trying to stick to like low calorie diets, and it was just so unsustainable, and it didn't work. And I was just like kind of checked in with myself, and I was like, come on now, like do this properly. And I remember thinking to myself, for the first time in my life, so I've been, plagued with weight loss thoughts my whole life, and for the first time I said to myself, your body doesn't work properly. Like, you need your body to function as a priority. Regardless of how your body looks, it needs to function. And for the first time, weight loss was just put on the back burner, and I said to myself, you need to do whatever you can to be healthy, to try and function again, and then maybe look at weight loss. And it's quite ironic that it's not until you stop pursuing weight loss that you tend to actually see any. Yeah. And it was from that point I had a really kind of steady weight loss and improved my health and got to the stage that I'm at, but I never had weight loss as a target. It was just trying to actually function and look after myself.
Yeah, because I feel like when you're just always focusing on something or settling over it, like you're super stressed all the time. Mm-hmm. And like stress, cortisol will impact your hormones and like impact your weight loss. So like I just feel like people know this deep down. Yeah. But like they might think, oh, but it will work for me, Like maybe that person that did do it wasn't doing it properly, maybe they were lazy, maybe they weren't committed. So like, I'm just gonna give it a go, maybe it will work for me.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone goes down that rabbit hole of low calorie dieting. Because I remember the lowest, like I don't even want to mention this, but the lowest calories I was like consuming was like 800 or like maybe even less.
How is that even food?
I don't know, like, but literally, like you look back and I'm just like, I couldn't wake up, I couldn't do my work, I wasn't living, I wasn't socialising.
We forget that calories are energy.
Exactly.
People talk all the time about kind of restricting calories and being in a calorie deficit, and whilst I fully understand that that's like the fundamental physics behind weight loss, at the end of the day we're talking about energy. So if you restrict your energy in that much, your energy out is going to suffer. Like there's not going to be the energy that you want there unless you're putting it into your body.
Exactly. But so that's like, I feel like everyone just goes down that route, but hopefully women that really listen to this podcast episode will hopefully...
Yeah, if you're in that rabbit hole, please come out.
Just climb out.
We've all been there, and I'm here for you. Please come out of the rabbit hole.
Yeah, but no, seriously, it's true. So nutritional therapy is basically just using nutrition to...
essentially. No, I don't think that many people are actually aware of what nutritional therapy is. The people that I work with are mainly nutritional therapists, and we forget that it sounds like a really strange thing to anyone who hasn't heard of it before. But you essentially kind of have three routes within nutrition. You've got dietitians, nutritionists, and nutritional therapists. So dietitians are more aimed at working with specific disease, the kind of person who, if you were in hospital and you were sick with something, that would be who you'd see. Registered nutritionists are more aimed at public health, so public health messages, usually working in government and things like that. And nutritional therapists are the only people who are trained in one-to-one clinic. So I study functional medicine, that's what it's called, and it's about understanding that every single person is an individual, and we kind of have like a health thumbprint, and what works for one probably won't work for another, and you have to address the root cause of anything to actually see any success. And I describe it in the way that you would look after a plant. So if you had a plant and it started getting spots on the leaves, would you put a cream on the leaf, or would you treat the root? You treat the roots, exactly. And this is how we need to be looking at our own bodies. We need to find the root cause of disease, and usually you could make a whole list of symptoms. You could take somebody who describes themselves as healthy, and you could write down all of these little things that they experience every now and then, and you'd probably find one root reason behind it. And when we can treat that root cause, everything else becomes so much more improved. And I think nutritional therapy, and well, it's often referred to as nutrition and lifestyle medicine now as well, it's becoming more and more talked about, and more people are looking at it now, because we can't just look at everyone as though we're all written from the same pen, because we're not. Exactly. We're all individuals, and this is not at all to say that conventional medicine isn't worthy. It's amazing, you know, that what we do now with surgeries and doctors and GPs, they're incredible people and they do incredible work. And there's so much pressure that we're putting on things like the NHS because we aren't looking after ourselves because we don't necessarily understand how to. And if we can do that ourselves, if we can start to look after ourselves in ways that we have access to, we can leave so much more space for conventional medicine to look at the things that we can't control, things like cancer, you know, things that there's nothing we can do to stop that. So if we're looking after us, then they've got a better chance at looking after all the stuff we don't have control over.
Exactly, I agree. So let's kind of move on, because we're kind of mentioning it, but what are some of the things that can impact our hormonal balance?
Yeah. So lots of things can impact our hormones. I think hormones are very, very misunderstood. People talk about hormones, especially girls, we talk about them as though they only impact us 1 week of the month. And we just really think about them impacting our mood. Like if we're moody, we say we're hormonal, and that's it. And we say, oh, it's my time of the month, so it's my hormones. But our hormones are dictating everything, every day. We are just a product of our hormones. We are what our hormones want. And we have so many of them. And it's not just mood, like mood is in there, but things like our hunger, you know, our sleep, our relationships, the way that we feel about things, our sex drive, all of these things are influenced by our hormones. And if one's out of balance, then they're kind of all out of balance. And we really, really need to be protecting them as much as we can. One of the biggest things in kind of modern day that impacts this is stress, which, you know, you've already mentioned because we can't really go 5 minutes without saying the word stress at the moment. But stress massively impacts because when we are in a state of stress, that overrides anything. When the body is stressed, the only thing on its mind is survival. Because although most stress doesn't require, you know, a life or death response, biologically that's still what we think is happening. So we are still in this kind of survival mode and nothing else matters when we're stressed. The only thing we care about is actually surviving and everything else is kind of put on the back burner. So stress is a massive one that impacts our hormones. Sleep as well can impact things, but then that's also vice versa, so our hormones impact our sleep. And then diet and activities. It kind of comes down to the lifestyle things that impact our hormones, but what we really need to understand is that our hormones don't happen to us. You know, we think that our hormones are doing something to us. They're not. Our hormones are us.
Yeah.
You know, we are our hormones, and if we are, if we're taking something like the pill, or we're covering up those hormones, or we're not really trying to get them into balance, then we don't really know who we are. Because if they've got control over us, then we don't really have that control over our sense of self. We really need to actually be the ones in control of our hormones. And this might sound like it's a massive overreaction, it's really not. This is just how the body works. Our hormones are quite responsible for everything.
I agree. And I just feel like when you're, I don't know, like when you're not, like the symptoms we're experiencing is just like a sign your hormones are given.
Yeah.
So it's not like what you said, your hormones are doing this to you like on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like hey, like something going on, like take a
Yeah.
look into
There are communicators.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I just feel like people just think it's like, oh, I'm just being hormonal. Like, it's just everything's just blaming on the hormones.
Yeah.
It's just like they're trying to like help you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like trying to annoy you.
Yeah, they're there to run us. There are messaging servers. So if you think about that, like there's your brain and your body. Your brain wants to do something, and it's your hormones that actually get your body to do it.
Yeah, everything's communicated. Like your brain communicating with your ovaries. If that's like no miscommunication, like you like not ovulating, not got periods, so everything just works together, not like
We want it to be a harmony.
Harmony, yeah.
But we're usually working against them, not with them.
Yeah, that always happens. Always have to fight our body.
Yeah.
So let's move on to some of the diet kind of aspects. Firstly, as the oat queen, I know, so carbs, let's start off with carbs.
Yeah.
Carbs, are they bad?
Carbs. It's 2020 and people are still demonizing carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are a macronutrient that we need in our lives. So without carbohydrates, we've first of all, we wouldn't have vegetables, which we all know are good for us. But they're our most readily available source of energy, and more so than anything is they're nice. Carbohydrates taste good. I like them. I'm never going to cut them out of my diet. But at the end of the day, the thing to bear in mind with PCOS is that it is so individual. I know we say this all the time, but it is. There is no one dietary approach. You could take two people who have, the same, pretty much mimicking symptoms of PCOS, and you could put them on the same diet exactly, and they'd still react completely differently. And no one knows you better than you, so you have to figure out this balance kind of yourself, hopefully under the guidance of somebody else. But it does take a bit of experimentation, and you'll find that some things work for you and some don't. And I know personally that if I take my carbohydrates too low within a diet, I'm just really unhappy because I like carbohydrates, but equally if I take them too high, I can get really lethargic and I can get really tired. When it comes to carbs though, when it comes to anything, we have to think that there's what we do most of the time and what we do some of the time. And we are what we do most of the time. And what we do some of the time is absolutely fine. And we obviously want to be prioritising high fibre carbohydrates most of the time. But saying that doesn't mean that low fibre carbohydrates or white or processed, the word processed drives everyone crazy now, but that doesn't mean that they're bad. Everything absolutely has a place in a healthy lifestyle. It's just when and where and how much we have. So I try, and if anyone follows me on Instagram, I post quite a lot of food, mainly food, and I do try and show both sides of the spectrum. So sometimes my meal might be really low carbohydrate with loads of different types of vegetables and lean protein, and sometimes I might eat a whole pizza. It's kind of about, the word balance is thrown around all the time. I use it ironically and I use it seriously, but it does just come down to it. But balance looks different on everybody. And the thing with carbohydrates and PCOS, from like a practical and actually helpful point of view, is that you do have to figure out what works for you. And I know people who find that high carbohydrate diet is beneficial for them. I know some people who really experience bad effects if they take them too high. They can only stick to a low carbohydrate diet. And some people find that eating them earlier in the day means that they're more stable with their energy. Some people find that eating them later in the day helps them sleep. It's really dependent on you. The one thing I would say is making sure you get enough fibre. Kind of as a blanket statement for everybody, we all need enough fibre, and especially in PCOS, because digestion can be such an issue with estrogen detoxification. We need to make sure that our digestive system is working properly, and fibre is our best friend for that. And it feeds our gut bugs, our microbes, our friendly little microbiota. We want to be feeding them as much as we can, and one of their favourite sources of food is fibre from prebiotics. So we want to be making sure that fibre is nice and high, and oats are a very good source of fibre. So yeah, I do like my oats.
And if you want any ideas for oat recipe, you've got a bunch of them on Instagram.
Hundreds and hundreds.
But they always look so nice. How do you do that? It just looks like a bit of sludge.
It's become a bit of a habit now. I can't seem to eat anything without making it look really pretty. Even if I don't take a picture of it, I just do it for myself.
It looks good though. Thank you. So what would be your other food staples? What do you go to? Would you, let's say maybe every day or on a regular basis, what are your top?
Well, I think that's quite a hard one to answer because my biggest thing is variety. So you could create the most perfect diet for a day, and it's not going to be perfect the next day because we need to have variety, and our body thrives from variety. So I try and mix things up as much as I can. And I do try and bear in mind, I don't know if you've heard the phrase, don't eat today what you ate yesterday, which I think is good to a point, but there are some things that I'm just going to have every day, like oats. But yeah, that's usually my breakfast. I try and include seeds of some type in my day because I personally find that was a massive part of being able to balance my hormones. because of like the nutrients are required, but also the fats that are in them. So
which seeds do you?
So I try and get in pumpkin seeds and linseeds every day. But sesame seeds and sunflower seeds are also really, really good ones to go for. But seeds usually provide things like magnesium, selenium and zinc, which are really important for hormone development. And a lot of, not just women, a lot of people can be, I don't want to use the word deficient because that sounds scary, but maybe not getting as much as they should be because they're not that present in that many foods. They're mainly present in things like seeds and then green leafy veg as well. So I personally try and get seeds in, and then also if a day goes by that I don't get any, I'm not going to beat myself up about it.
Just like get a spoon and be like,
yeah, just start shoving them
my
down.
seeds.
Eggs are a big one for me. I love eggs. Mainly because they're really easy and quick to cook, but I also just like the taste, and they're so packed full of nutrition. They're like nature's multivitamin. They've got so much in, and they're one of our only dietary sources of vitamin D as well, which is really important, especially this time of year. So I love eating eggs. And there's
I feel like eggs have got a bad rap.
Yes,
well.
they have.
On Instagram, it's like only eggs. I'm like, well, why not? Like I like eat eggs, don't eat eggs.
Eggs are there's such a myth around them because of their cholesterol level.
Yeah.
So for years it was, eggs are going to kill you, don't eat eggs because they're so high in cholesterol. But we now know that the cholesterol we take in through our diet has little to no impact on our blood cholesterol level. So we don't really need to be scared of them. But then again, it does come down to this variety thing. So it's not necessarily something that we want to have every day, because if we are, that means we're not consuming other types of foods. Anything green and leafy would be in my day at least once, all the time. And I just try and eat a lot of fruit and veg. So I really like fruit and veg, and I will eat, anywhere between 10 to 16 portions in a day. And this became a bit of a thing at work. So I wrote a book called 5 in 1. It's only a short recipe ebook, but it's called 5 in 1 because each recipe contains at least 5 different types of fruit or vegetable. There's even a cake recipe in there that contains at least 5. But some of them have got 7 in there, they're really high, and the reason I made this is because at work, I work in health promotion. I work on a diabetes prevention program in the NHS, and we obviously talk a lot about vegetable and fruit intake and how, although 5 a day is sort of rammed down everyone's throats, ideally we want to be pushing to 10, that kind of that's where we want to be living. And someone said to me, how are you supposed to eat 5 portions of fruit and vegetable in one day? And I said, I could eat that in a meal. And out of sheer bloody mindedness, I made a book full of recipes just to prove it. So I try and keep my fruit and veg intake quite high, but it's just about doing the best that you can when you can.
And it's about consistency, so it's what you do out of like most of the year rather than just like a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not going to impact.
Yeah, definitely. So I think my big things there would be fibre, variety of fruit and veg, and then figuring out what fats suit you. So this can take a little bit of experimentation as well. Some people, and a lot of people are still worried about fats. A lot of people are still quite scared of it. We still have this idea that fat makes us fat, which is just not true. Like, we know now that it's energy balance that dictates our weight gain and our weight loss and our weight maintenance. But in terms of fats, they're so important. And not just for energy, but for, we have fat soluble vitamins. We can't absorb some vitamins without fats. And our hormones, our sex hormones, so estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, these ones that are really important for PCOS, they are steroid hormones, so they're created from fats. If we don't have that fat available in our body, we physically can't make them. We're really, really going to struggle. So we need to have those fats available. And personally, and this is just my experience, everyone is different, I noticed probably the biggest change in myself when I actually started introducing more fats into my diet. Because it was just like I suddenly had the raw materials there. I was always so obsessed with low fat when I was younger. And now, I mean, I just love it. Olive oil, avocados, throw it at me, it's great.
Exactly, I had that same thing as well. It's like, I thought fats were like, carbs and fats were like the devil.
Yeah. We run out of food.
What are we going to eat chicken breast?
Just eat protein all day, every day.
You're not going to go to the toilet.
Yeah. God, that wouldn't be very good for the digestive system, would it?
But I just feel like, when I started eating more fats, like having a whole avocado for lunch, and like your like olive oil and all that stuff, you do feel much better. Like my periods like regulating,
yeah.
Like, all this stuff. Just
and
like,
so much fuller between meals. And this is when I work with people and get them to introduce fats. This is always the feedback I get. Always, people say I'm so full now. You know, because previously, if you think, my best example for this is low-fat yogurt. If you eat one of those like low-fat, I'm not going to use a brand name, but whatever yogurts, you could probably eat about 3 of those, realistically. You could probably eat about 3 before you actually feel full. If you eat some full-fat Greek yogurt, you're full before you get to the end of the tub, because it's filling, fats are filling, and they stop that, you know, between meals, they stop that like, oh, I want something to eat. That's gone because you're actually satisfied. So we need to stop being scared of fats.
So like, what would your like the PCOS friendly plate look like? If you're going to eat a meal, like what should someone's plate look like?
So I think this again would fit to kind of general health guidelines. So a good visual for this is if you put your hands together and then kind of imagine a natural plate. You want half of it to be your like veg, and then you want your carbohydrates and your protein. And when it comes to choosing those, things that are, so glycemic index is obviously a big thing that's talked about in terms of PCOS, because the lower a glycemic index of the food, that means that glucose is released slower into the bloodstream, which can be really helpful for insulin regulation, although we don't even know if that is an actual link between PCOS and insulin, but as it goes, there we are. So choosing low GI carbohydrates, which tend to be higher in fibre, not only does that help with blood glucose, but it's going to be bringing in more nutrients into your life because they've got more fibre and more micronutrients in them. And then when it comes to the protein, lean protein sources are always really helpful, but then also oily fish. You know, most of us aren't getting enough oily fish. And then again, we're getting those essential fatty acids that we need from a hormonal perspective, but they're so heart healthy, they're so good for us. And plant proteins are becoming more and more talked about, more and more included now, and that just helps you actually get more variety into your life as well. The thing to remember there though is when we're talking about things like pulses, is that even though they're good sources of protein, they also tend to contain carbohydrates. So you then need to balance that out with your carbohydrates on your plate, and then just a big variety of vegetables as well. And it doesn't have to be segregated portion by portion. I think this is where people can sometimes go wrong, is that they get their plate and they put like a plain piece of protein on it, some plain carbohydrates and some vegetables. Mix it up, put some seasonings on there, get some spices involved, get some oils, make it tasty, make it exciting. And then it's not going to be boring. You're actually going to want to eat that every day.
Because I feel like when you're eating a flavourless meal, just plain, you look at it just like, this looks
exactly. And this is why health has such a bad reputation, because people think that it's just boring plates of food.
Like steamed broccoli or a bit of broccoli stems here.
Steamed broccoli, grilled chicken and brown rice. That is what everyone thinks of when they think about it.
No, but yeah, it's true. Season your food, add like healthy oils.
Yeah.
Like just mix it up every day. Don't just be like the same meal every day because somebody on the internet said,
this is the perfect meal for PCOS. That is the perfect meal. No one knows you, only you know you.
It's so true. So let's move on to fitness, exercise. Yeah. This is like a big part of your life, like your whole life.
So I don't know, sometimes it feels like it is.
So what do you do for exercise?
I'm a CrossFitter. Yeah, I'm one of those. So exercise for me and fitness was a massive part of being able to regain kind of control of my hormones and actually get back into a cycle. I didn't start out doing CrossFit, that's not where I began, but I never liked exercise as a kid. I used to sail competitively, but beyond that, I mean, I did netball at school and things like that, but I was never what you'd describe as sporty, you know, I wasn't like that. And then I started going to the gym when I was on this, you know, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to get control of my PCOS. And I was quite lucky in that a very good friend of mine at the time he was home from university and he was like, I don't like going to the gym on my own. Will you come with me? But if you come with me, you've got to do what I do. And up until this point, I've been a cardio queen. You know, I'd go cross trainer, exercise bike, run a machine, maybe even a bit of the rower. And that was what I did, and I hated it. But when I did it, because I thought that's what fitness was, I thought that's what health was. And he did resistance training and weightlifting and that kind of thing. I remember the first session I walked in and I was like, what am I doing? And I was like, this is so not where I'm supposed to be. And at the end of the first session I was like, when can we come again? When can we come again? Because I loved it. Just like being able to feel so strong and being able to use muscles I didn't know I had, it was amazing. And for me, I didn't at the time know how weight and resistance training was so influential on PCOS, especially if you're more testosterone dominant. I didn't know at the time that it was actually so beneficial for me. And looking back, I realised that it was another really good accidental decision on my part. So I got really, really into it then. And from then on, it just became like a kind of, I don't want to say addiction because that makes it sound unhealthy, but I just loved it, and it was really easy to fit into my routine because I liked it and I got excited by it, and I could see the effects in terms of my mental health and physically, not necessarily aesthetically, but I felt different, and I just enjoyed it. And that's the biggest thing, is that you have to enjoy it if you want it to be something you stick to. So for a few years that was what I did. I just kind of stuck to weight training, and I had resistance bands for when I worked away and when I travelled. And then it was earlier in 2019, I kind of just got a little bit bored in what I was doing. I'd been doing very similar things for quite a while. During that time I also did my level 3 personal trainer qualification because I liked it so much I decided I wanted to help other people do it. But I was just a little bit kind of bored and I wanted a new challenge, because with strength and resistance training you can always be challenging yourself, you can always be having new stimulus, but I wanted something fresh. I wanted to feel like a beginner again.
It can be a bit repetitive.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted that initial buzz that you get at the start. And I talked to a friend about CrossFit, and I've been following people on Instagram who do all these, like, you know, throwing weights around, and I was like, I can never do that. And I went along to my first CrossFit session, and it was exactly like the feeling I'd had the first time I ever did weightlifting, and I loved it. It was amazing. And then I got a little bit intense into CrossFit, and for someone who preaches balance, I definitely wasn't balanced. I was training about 7 times a week. I wasn't recovering properly because I liked it so much. I wanted to be better, and it had a massive effect on me. You know, I crashed. I was so tired all the time, no matter, even if I was getting 9 hours sleep, I was still really tired. I was eating so much because my appetite was so increased, and I saw the changes in my cycle. Yeah, I could see it biologically, because I track them as I go. I think most people with PCOS do. But I saw the changes and I thought, right, you know, I need to take my own advice, I need to rein this back in again, and I got back to a kind of more balanced point. But that's still what I do at the moment. I do it about 5 times a week now. I just really like it, and I've got such a good crowd of people that I train with, which is so important. If you're new to fitness, or you're trying to figure out, you know, your hormones yourself, and you're looking into exercise, find a good group of people, because it's so important. When motivation is low, this time of year is such a good example. If you're about to go and train somewhere alone, or go and train with people you don't really like, that's not motivating. But if you know you're about to turn up to a party, it's so much more appealing, and that's what's going to get you up and out of bed in the morning to go. So those would be my 2 pieces of advice for anyone trying out or getting into fitness. Find something you like and find good people to do it with.
Yes, I totally agree. You always have to find maybe experiment, try resistance training. Don't like it. give it a couple of months, like actually give it a go, get a workout program,
Get those beginner
do
gains.
like an induction with like a personal trainer, you exercise,
Yes,
something
definitely.
But I feel like if you do start, you will actually enjoy it because, like I said, you can feel like the muscle
Yeah,
you never knew you had.
definitely.
Like you
And
see the change.
I think for women, everyone's so worried about getting bulky. They say, oh, but I don't get. No one gets that way by accident. It takes so much hard work and dedication to become bulky. Women train for years and years and years and they never get there. So don't worry about weight training and not wanting to become bulky. It's a bit like saying you're never going to drive because you don't want to become a Formula 1 driver. Like, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. I mean, I've been training since I was 15, I think, so like 10 years now.
Wow.
I'm not I'm not bulky at all.
If you wanted to be,
I
you could get there.
I could
But you don't want to be.
I could get there. And at one point I got a bit chunky. I was like, it's a bit too
Join
chunky.
my shoulders and just go like,
Yeah, it was just like the legs get a bit too much. I was like, I don't really want to look, but I want to be like tone.
Yeah.
I say tone movement, but you can't really look tone. It's like lean look.
Yeah.
So you just work. You know, you follow an exercise program that doesn't make you bulky.
Definitely.
And you follow a good diet. You're not eating too much to. Obviously, you've got to feed your muscles, but
Yeah, for
you're
sure.
not eating a super surplus, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, even if you try weight training and it's not for you, even though the benefits are really helpful for PCOS, it's fine. It's not for you. It's not for you. Find what is for you because it's better to do something that you like regularly than occasionally do something you hate.
Yeah. Consistency leads to results. So in order to be consistent, you have to find something you enjoy.
Absolutely.
In with regards to fitness and with your diet. You can't just expect to just do something for a month.
Completely.
And then be like, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
Consistency is
Never going to do it again.
always key.
If you can't see yourself still doing it this time next year, it's not for you.
Exactly. So yeah, we touched on diet, fitness, what affects your hormones. Like we looked at the Frank Peter's main diet. So I don't know, let's kind of look a little bit more about So we looked at the strategies. The strategies, what did you focus when you were diagnosed? What was your main focus, and then what are you still doing at the moment?
Okay. So actually, when I was first diagnosed, the advice I was given was don't research it. I was told to not get into it because people get obsessed with it. And you know, sometimes you go on these forums and you do see that some people need to calm down. But that was probably some of the worst advice I was ever given, to not research it. But I researched properly. Now, I didn't read articles in newspapers that I won't name, but I actually went and read studies and things like that. And the first thing to understand is that it's so different on everyone. You know, there are so many different types of PCOS, but then in those types, you have so many differences. It's kind of like saying, I drive a black car. Well, great. What model car? Is it a diesel? Is it a petrol? Is it a manual? Is it automatic? You know, there's so many things that can influence it. And you really need to figure out what that is for you. And that doesn't have to be through testing. You can just figure it out through trial and error. But the first things I did were the extreme things like cutting out dairy and cutting out gluten and cutting out all the stuff that I should have done. But I did that, and then I actually went back to my normal life. And in terms of diet, I think I've already spoken about what I would say were the most important things. I'm always a bit hesitant to say too much about that because I would hate for anyone to hear that I've had success, replicate what I do, and then not be successful on it. So in terms of diet, I think I've given some good, kind of somewhat vague, but hopefully useful guidelines. But sleep is such an important one for me. You know, you can't do anything if you're underslept. Our circadian rhythms are driven by our hormones again. Different ones, not our sex hormones, but melatonin and cortisol are our sleep hormones and our weight hormones, and we need to be friendly to those as well. 8 hours, so 7 to 9 hours is the guidelines for anyone over 18. So 8 hours sleep is a really, really important thing to be aiming for when you're trying to improve your health, regardless of your condition. Whether it's PCOS, whether it's something else, you need to be getting enough sleep in order to be able to do anything. And along with that is hydration. So we have to be staying hydrated, especially if you're doing fitness, as we've already talked about. But 2 litres a day plus an additional litre for every hour you're physically active. is the kind of guidelines, and people always forget that second part. People try and get that 2 litres, but if you're working out for an hour, but you also walk half an hour to work and half an hour back, that's another 2 litres you need in your day. And then people say, oh, but then I've got to go to the toilet all the time. Yeah, that's the point. Your body's flushing out all the stuff it doesn't want in there. So it's actually a really, really useful thing. So don't get annoyed when you're going to the toilet, that's the point of it. So getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, and stress management. This one in particular for PCOS, but also just for everybody, if anyone else is listening to this. It's so, so important. Stress is always going to be there. We can't eradicate it, there's no point trying, but we need to have stress management techniques in place. And this can look different for everybody. For some people, they just find that exercise is really good stress management. For some people, just going for a walk outside. But also, meditation and mindfulness are so, so useful. And actually making time for that is so important, because it just allows your body to get back into that kind of rest and digest, as opposed to the fight or flight response, and just really slow down. It's fundamental things like hormone production and things like that. So stress management is so, so important, and it's always put on the back shelf for everyone. And I think once you actually bring stress management into your life, you start to see improvements everywhere. Even if there's nothing, diagnosably wrong with you, by managing stress, you'll just see improvements in your life, in your relationships, in your attitudes, in just your overall daily happiness. So I think those would be the real big things to focus on. And they're really good start points because they're so simple, they're quite easy to start implementing from now. People think of health as a destination. I'm on my health journey, I'm getting to health. Like, once I do these things, then I'll be healthy. But health is behaviour. Health is what we're doing. So regardless of what you did yesterday, if today you're getting enough sleep, you're getting enough water, you're eating a balanced diet, and you're managing your stress, that's health. That is healthy. It's just about what you're doing, not where you're trying to get to.
So really just enjoy the journey, what you're doing. On the journey to health, enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah,
don't just focus so much on, if I do this, then by 2021 I'm going to be super healthy.
Yeah.
I feel like health is not a list of things you just tick off, really.
And we can't approach it as that either. It has to be something we enjoy, and there's got to be a reason why behind it as well. So many times, especially this time of year, people are like, I'm just going to improve my health. Why? Ask yourself why. What are your values? What is behind this? Because that is what is going to drive you towards.
That's the motivation. Every time you feel like you're running out of that determination to do what you want to do, always remind yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why did I start eating healthier or eating more vegetables or exercising? Why am I doing this? It's not just because I want to lose weight. It's not just because Jenny from my neighbour or whatever said, oh, she's going to try this, and I thought, why not?
Yeah.
It's we all have a specific reason within us that we're doing something. So always remember that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's wrap up with what would be final piece of advice or starting point. Where should someone who's just finished listening to this episode, where should they start? What should they start with?
I would say, first of all, understand that you are an individual, and there is absolutely no one size fits all with PCOS, and you need to kind of figure out what is right for you and what is there for you through research and trial and error. And the thing to always bear in mind with research is that not every message is meant for you. So there will be something out there that is so helpful and so useful for one person, and for you, it really doesn't, change anything. And not all the advice out there is for you. And if you try and take it all on at once, it's not going to work. So pick, a few things that feel achievable for you, that are an easy place to start, whether it is just trying to get 8 hours sleep as part of your routine, whether it is trying to drink enough water every day, whether it is just working on your relationship with food at the moment to allow you to start introducing healthier fats and that kind of thing, whether it's trying a new exercise, picking one or two of those things that are easy for you, getting that established in your routine, and then picking something else. That would be my big piece of advice.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's always good to do your own research, be a health advocate, but whenever you're doing your research, don't always take this message as
gospel.
Yeah. Because we're all different, but also make sure that you're also looking at credible people, sources, and also if you for example, my blog, I always do evidence-based research. It's never anecdotal. I never say my own opinion. If I do say my opinion, it's just here's my opinion.
Absolutely, we've all got
opinions. It's evidence-based. I look at studies. I don't just go on forums and be this is my opinion. And if you're just looking at forums and anecdotal stories, then that's
you
good.
Get so lost.
That's okay to do. It's not bad. But don't just be okay, this worked for this person.
Yeah, you've got to take a picture.
Copy and paste it and expect it to work for you.
Definitely.
Awesome. So, where can our listeners connect with you? How can they connect?
So I'm on Instagram, Isabel Dawkes _health. That is my Instagram. My website is Isabel Dawkes Health, and Dawkes is DAWKES. I'm also on Facebook on the same name and Twitter. If you want to see, I post a lot of recipes and a lot of food. If you are looking for any kind of food inspiration, that is a good place to go. And then through my website, I offer nutrition coaching, and from July, I'll also be offering nutritional therapy. So if anyone is interested in that, then you can look there.
Awesome. I'll have everything linked in the show notes so everyone can go check out the links. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that you all follow and check out the website. And if you're interested in coaching, then definitely go for it. Your message is very relatable, and you're always giving personalized advice. So it's not just cookie cutter programs.
Absolutely, but there's lots of cookies. There are lots of cookies.
Cookies. So why not go for it? But thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thank you to anyone who actually listened all the way to the end of this podcast without me rambling on. I hope there's been something useful in there for you to take away. Thanks to anyone who took their time out of their day to listen to this, and thanks very much for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, and I'm sure people gain something valuable. There's tons of great information.